Welcome to OL 612. This is the conflict management class. I'm doing the welcome video, which I sometimes nickname my silly video. And this is where I'm just going to take some time to talk about the course description, what you can expect, assignments, the course design. I'm going to sprinkle in a little things about communication in here since this is a communication-driven course. And this is like if we were meeting on the first week of school and the very first day and what you would expect, except I can't do an icebreaker in my Zoom video and I can't take attendance. No worries. We will build committee. We will build community throughout the term in other ways using the course design on Canvas. So I do have the syllabus here in front of me, and I'm going to be using that as part of my guide. You can access the syllabus from our Canvas page. And I also am mostly looking at the Canvas page, and I'm going to be navigating from modules. So I start on the home page. If you are at, so just a digital tip, I designed the class to be on a desktop, and the way Canvas does the app. So if you're on an iPad or if you're on a phone using the Canvas app, it will look different than the way it's designed to be navigated from there. So I did try and adapt a couple things, but it's a little different. So I would make sure that I love the convenience of the Canvas app myself. I use it on my phone, but I definitely encourage you to use a desktop, go in through that way as the primary way that you interact with the course. I think you'll find it a little bit easier. And we could meet and talk about it if you want it. I'll keep sprinkling in through the class different reasons of why you could come and chat with me in a Zoom room. And one of them is to really get really good at navigating Canvas and understanding some of the tips and tricks of using this learning system. Okay. So welcome to OL 612, Organizational Leadership Master's Program. This is conflict management. Just a note, to be a little semantic, we don't call it conflict resolution. By the end of the term, you're going to have a much deeper understanding of why we don't use the term resolution, but we use the term management. So let's just semantically start right away, highlighting conflict management as the main term that we use when we talk about the interpersonal communication skills we're learning in this class. This class is all online. There's no synchronized Zoom lecture. It's not a hybrid class. There's no in-person piece to it. However, I'm right here. I didn't make this video weeks ago, months ago, or years ago. I made it right now at the beginning of the term, and I'm available. And if you feel like your learning style is more interactive, the class is designed with elements that are interactive, but I definitely encourage you to reach out and let's jump in a Zoom call and let's talk about the class or anything that you have a question about or just want to explore a topic in more depth. To me, that's some of the most exciting pieces of working with grad students and getting into a more seminar style and a deeper dive than we would in an undergrad class. So let's take advantage of that and let's keep the dialogue flowing. Uh, so if you have any accessibility requests, they can go through the ODS, Western Oregon University's Department Disability Services, and all the links and information for that are on this in the syllabus and on Canvas, or you can just Google search that for Western Oregon University Disability Services. I would like to say that Everyone has a different way that they move through the learning experience, and if and the way this class is designed is to access a lot of different types of ways of interacting with the materials. We have videos, we have podcasts, we have me, right? Like this. I'm going to make quite a few videos for you, and so. If there's something in particular that I can adjust or you'd like me to be aware of, that would be another reason to jump in a Zoom call and let's talk about it. Any requests like that, let's make an appointment or just let me know you're available. Maybe if I'm available, we could just jump right in. Okay, let's see. The syllabus and The syllabus here starts with the course description. So let's talk about what is conflict management, interpersonal communication. And I'm going to just give you a little bit of overview of the field of communication as an area of study. Uh, when we get to this level of all of you are coming in from st different experiences, different backgrounds in research and studies and exposure. And some of you, especially in the professional working world, because conflict is the way that we're navigating collaborative spaces, that you may have been sent to a workshop, you might have had different things that you have done to try and understand conflict. All of that is valuable and important as we move forward. Uh, but just to be aware that this class is coming in from a communication perspective and is specifically interpersonal communication, which is the dyad. It's the conversation. It's the dynamics of the transaction of sender and receiver. In the field of communication, we have public speaking, which is considered the rhetoric parts of communication studies, and that is the one to the many. Actually, even though I am designed a little in the way that I'm speaking in a public speaking, extemporaneous speaking style, I'm not reading anything. I haven't memorized anything, but I have a plan and I have practiced. So that is what extemporaneous is, which is part of considered one of the highest forms of speaking skills in the public speaking rhetoric field. Uh, because it is such a high-tuned skill, we will be practicing extemporaneous speaking in little pockets through the class in the way that you interact in discussion boards and in your teams. So that is one area, and that includes persuasion, influence, and of course, we're always like a thread in the field of communication dealing with ethics, and ethics meaning what is right and wrong, and what is driving us and navigating us to be in a consideration of a purpose that considers others, like empathy, or navigates us to do the right thing, even if it's not always what might be the most competitively advantageous thing to do. So that's kind of really important in understanding when we're in the field of rhetoric. Another field in communication studies is mass media, and this is anything where the message is to send to thousands and now millions of people. This is like advertising and public relations and corporate branding. Uh, these all these things kind of, and of course, filmmaking, storytelling. Uh, all of the journalism that sometimes falls right into mass communication. And that is a separate field than persuasion and rhetoric and interpersonal, which is what we're doing in this class. And then there is other section. I'm just trying to think now of all the different types of communication. There's lots of subfields like health communication, and that's the way for professional caregivers, doctors, nurses, other people in the medical field, communicating with each other and communicating with non-medical field people, us everyday people who have to talk. So that would be health communication, as well as uh, environmental communication is another subfield. Uh, I'm trying to think of them all. For some reason, they're not coming to me very quickly today, but there's quite a few of sub-genres that we've put under the umbrella of communication, online communication, computer generated communication, and opening up now like AI and communication and the AI chatting type of feature when it feels like you're talking to a person, but you're not. There's going to be, oh, and gender and communication. That's one. Okay, now I'm getting my flow. I'm getting it. Let's go. Gender communication, science communication, which is another field area of study that I specialize in because my PhD, which I'm this close to being done, come on, let's go, is in environmental science. And I study conflict over environmental issues and negotiations and facilitating conflict situations over water. So anyone who wants to come in and talk about water, uh-oh, you will get quite a full conversation. That is one of my specialties. So science communication is another subfield. All right. So in all of this, we want to narrow down what we're doing in our conflict management class about interpersonal. And in the field of in the research of conflict management, we really want to kind of recognize that conflict is inevitable. And because it is inevitable, it means that how we manage those situations when they come up, how do we self-regulate? And this is a leadership program, so we really want to think about emotional self-regulation in difficult conversations or facing difficult moments, whether it's professional feedback or evaluation situations in interviews, in when we're trying to get to creativity and collaboration. Uh, these things all need an element of self-regulation. How do you self-regulate? How do you manage your stress levels? Those are things we're going to talk about quite a bit in this class. Let's see. And also the reason why we don't use the word resolution is is sometimes an appropriate term. We don't want to completely throw it out, but it is we consider it a dated term in the field of communication and conflict management. Uh, it puts the dialogue in a place of an adversarial relationship. And this is one of the things we'll do week 1 and week 2, especially, is really try and understand the difference between an adversarial dialogue, which I am taking my side and here's your side. And now when we converse, if we are going to resolve it, one has to win and one has to lose. And that win-lose dynamic of an adversarial uh, conflict falls more under conflict resolution because once you have a winner and a loser, we've resolved the conflict. But we wouldn't call that a collaborative or cooperative type of way to build trust, to create collaboration. You really lose any inability at that point to move toward innovation or true creativity. So when we are looking at the field of interpersonal conflict management, we want to start pulling the threads apart of a conversation. And are we driving towards a functional dialogue or a dysfunctional dialogue? And in under the umbrella of functional, we'll put things like the word toxic, which we'll get a better, clearer idea of what that means this term. We're going to talk about aggression versus assertiveness and agency. We're going to talk about passive aggressive, direct aggressive, indirect aggressive, all under the umbrella of a dysfunctional way to deal with a conflict. And then we're going to hear in the functional piece, we're going to be looking at, are we being productive? Are we in a place where we can integrate instead of polarize? Are we being cooperative versus adversarial? Or has the conflict moved to a destructive place? And we are going to start pulling apart these terms. We're going to dive deep into what is happening, and I'm going to give you a lot of tools and strategies. Get ready, empty out your toolbox. Do I have tools for you this term? And every tool can't be used in every situation. And some tools you might feel fit better for your style of communication or your cultural preference of communication versus another one, which is why we're going to fill your basket or your toolbox up with tools. Our first metaphor, we are going to be deep into metaphors this term. So I hope that kind of gives you an introduction a little bit to how this course is navigated and what we're trying to do here. I do want to recognize that there are a lot of different communication cultures, and there's a lot of different leadership styles, and we want to make room for all of those differences when we are navigating this course. I might have I definitely have a very specific style of dealing with conflict, but that is based on me, my culture, my personal experiences, my family dynamics, my divorce, my kids, right? Like all these things have builded my style, and I want to value the path that's led you to this moment and get you the tools so you can be the best leader you can be, and however you're showing up. Okay. Let's talk about the book. We've got a book. Well, we have books. Let's say plural. So in this class, the thread to help build this class is from Hawker and Wilmot's Interpersonal Conflict textbook. This is a really important textbook in the field of interpersonal communication and conflict management. It it is a textbook. It's exactly what you'd expect a textbook to look like. It's got the chapters and the subchapters and the little boxes and pictures, right? It is a textbook. This book is prohibitively expensive. I would fall out of my chair if if a professor required me to buy this book. I cannot believe how much it is. So I just want to let you know, if there is a reading from this book that I want to use, I'm going to make that section available to you, but it is the driving thread of this class. So if you can get a hold of a past edition of the book or rent a book or get the ebook rental, and you feel like that is in economic grasp for you, it would be helpful for you as we navigate the course, but it is not required. Okay. If there is a reading from this book, I will post it. And it'll be sprinkled throughout the term, and it's usually just a section or two here or there. Okay. So I just want you to know where that's coming from, and the definition that we use for what is interpersonal conflict is the Hawker and Wilmot definition. That's going to be in week one's tiny desk presentation. I will go over all the elements of that, and the history of definitions of conflict will be in that lecture. Okay. However, you are required to buy a book. All right. But I give you a choice of which book you would like to use for the class. I'm going to go over them right now here, and a strategy and how the book is used and the assignments connected to the book you choose. So these books here are really, I chose things that are really about communication and or self-care and well-being, the well-being of self and the well-being of others, which is what is driving this class a lot for me in the way I build it. Now, I do not like to assume or that everyone has the same motivation for taking this class or that you are using a lens for how to use the tools in this class. Some people really come into this class as a parent and understand they want to be a better parent and self-regulate their emotions with their kids, and but also how to teach their kids to self-regulate their emotions when they are presented with difficult. So there are a lot of parents in this class who will find a lot of things that really resonate for them if they're driving that way. We also want to look at professional ways to use conflict management tools in the way that we are, gosh, the workplace. Oh my gosh. Oh, we are hired into workplaces, but we don't always have a lot of power or control. Oh, maybe we're dealing with customers. Maybe we're dealing with employees, subordinates, and trying to manage subordinates. Maybe we're the subordinate and we're trying to 360 manage a manager. Uh, I mean, it's just coming at us from all sides. And we really, I really want to reframe the way that you use the word professional to not be a gatekeeping word to say this is the best practices, but really understand the word professional is really how we respect and include and uphold core values in a workplace setting. Be, um, and knowing how to set boundaries and limits on that. So, okay, and then some of us are here thinking about our marriages. Some of us are thinking about our romantic lives, and this class can be really, really useful um in the way that we show up in our romantic relationships. So, and it might help us understand a past romantic relationship or a situation that really moved out of self regulation and why were we sabotage even felt like we ourselves all of a sudden became saboteurs to love and kindness and warmth and comfort in our relationships. Why do those relationships often become adversarial and competitive? Ooh. So this is just to say that when I talk about these books, think about you. Think about what you want out of this class, and there might be something for you in this list. Okay. So let's talk about the first book, which is a Brené Brown book called Braving the Wilderness: The Quest for True Belonging and the Courage to Stand Alone. This book here, I guess there's about 8 chapters or so. It's it even has an index. God, I love that about Brené Brown. The list of what I love about Brené Brown is quite long. In this book, this is the pre-book to her other book. Do I have it sitting over here? Called Dare to Lead, which I have also used. However, I think this is a more appropriate book for this class. And one of the reasons why I really like this book is there's a lot of focus on communication. It talks about linguistics and language and the power of language to create others and or move stronger into a we them dynamic, an adversarial type of dynamic. How to be civil, how to talk to strangers. I'm just uh, and it does have an element because it's the quest for true belonging and the courage to stand alone. Often when we are in management situations or we're trying to be a leader, this idea of standing alone but standing with others. How do you navigate your own identity when you feel how do you navigate feeling alone? And how do you stay connected to others but not give up who you are? So, and I have several copies of this book. I have a lot of copies. So if for some reason you would like to borrow a copy, give me a holler out and let's figure out how I can do a handoff with one of my extra copies if you need a copy of that book. Which brings us to the next book, which I also have several copies of. We Need to Talk by Celeste Headley. How to Have Conversations That Matter. Oh, are you seeing a communication theme? Ooh, welcome. Uh, Okay, so in this one, we need to talk. She's a radio broadcaster who has quite a bit of interviews, and she's really talking about how to dialogue in a way to be curious about others, to make room for differences, to think about other perspectives besides your own. Uh, One thing I really like about this book is that she really talks about her own journey and the mistakes that she made and what she learned from them. And she has one of the top TED Talks. So if you're just curious what her and it's a like a top 10 list you should do in conversation, and then and it's got millions of views, her TED Talk. And so she really has really leaned into this idea of what is a conversation. Ironically, We Need to Talk is kind of also about listening and how we listen to others. But I also have a book about listening, The Power of Keeping Your Mouth Shut in an Endless, Noisy World. And Dan Lyons says he's a journalist. And what I like about this book is he labels himself an overtalker. And he also, so this book has a lot more emphasis on how to listen and what is happening that we cannot sit in the silence or of a moment or have a pause, all the different cultural dynamics of a conversation and the competitive elements of conversation. And since he considers himself an overtalker, this is kind of his approach to shutting up, right? STFU, hashtag STFU, which is that kind of cultural shortcut for listening these days. I also like this book because he talks about the professional work environment, but he also talks about himself as a parent and how when he started really consciously moving himself into the listener role in a conversation, how it completely transformed his relationship with his adult children. And I think that's really a fascinating part of this book. So. Again, these are like bestseller books. You could throw this into YouTube and you can kind of get a feeling of which book would feel right for you. Okay. I have two more books to go over. One of them I don't have the copy of here, and that is called Burnout: The Secret of Unlocking the Stress Cycle. I think my daughter actually borrowed that book. I got to get it back from her so I can use it as a prop in my video. But Burnout: The Secret of Unlocking the Stress Cycle is by two sisters who were each of them, they're twin sisters, and I think one of them ends up in with a medical issue, and they're handling in their lives stress very differently. And because they started to realize one of them was experiencing chronic stress, and they end up writing this book together to really understand how stress affects our health, how it leads to different autoimmune diseases. And this is really a book about well-being and health. It's also about how do you self-regulate your adrenaline and cortisol releases. And because we're in a conflict management class, I think this is a really relevant way to think about difficult conversations, things that really feel like we get triggered by, and how do we self-regulate in those moments, and how do we show up? So this book will have a lot more well-being health kind of approach to it. Again, another very a top-selling book, so you can probably find quite a bit of information about it. All right, the last book is a brand new release. I couldn't even get a paperback of this book, but oh boy, is it juicy and good. And this is by the Gottmans, Julie Gottman and Dr. Julie Gottman and Dr. John Gottman, a married couple, fight right. They are really the top the top of understanding what is happening in conflict, and a lot of the vernacular that we're using today in 2024 about what's happening in conflict, whether you're on TikTok or you're in a master's level class like this one, is coming from the Gottman Research and the Gottman Institute, which has its own webpage, which you could go to the Gottman Institute and sign up for their newsletter and start getting quite a bit of really interesting information. This is how successful couples turn conflict into connection. And the Gottmans, we're going to use a lot of the Gottman research in this class. And they divide couples into the masters or the disasters. The masters or disasters. In fact, week one, there's a video with two psychologists who are Gottman trained to work with married couples, and they do a full analysis of Rachel and Ross from the popular sitcom Friends from the 90s, and use Gottman to look at what is happening with Rachel and Ross, and they use Gottman's research to do the analysis. So that's a really fascinating uh, video to watch, and you can get an idea right away of how the Gottmans come at looking at masters versus disasters. All right, those are your books. You have to choose one. Just choose one. You don't have to buy all of them. Which one will you choose for this term that will be your focus? Now, let me talk about the assignments and how to read your book for this term. And these all exist as audiobooks too. If some of you are really like audiobooks or are commuters and want to get some work done with your class while you're on the go, you may use these as audiobooks. So you will have two or three assignments for the book itself, where you will use them on discussion boards where you'll pull out information for the class. They're usually in video format. You'll make a small video where you'll share something, and you will talk about your book with your team. You might be in a team where you have several different of the books represented, and you might be on a team where everybody on your team has the exact same book. You'll either have this like book club kind of experience with your team where you might have someone else reading the book and then you can hear how they are processing the information. That's kind of fun. Or you might be in a team with all different books and then you can kind of get a peek into the view. The way the teams work out, I never know what you'll get, but you will have to just be ready to discuss your book in your team, maybe share a quote, teach something that you learned in your book to your team, share it that way. So get ready for that. That means that, and maybe you noticed that these books, I have all these little this one is just a Post-it note that I cut up. This one, I just used cards to divide up. So you have to read this book in total before week 8. Now, some of you are really good readers, and you could take this book and read it in a weekend. This is not textbook material. This is not peer academic journal. These are New York Times bestseller books. They're easy reads. And you could just sit down and read it really fast. That's okay. If that's you, you have a weekend and you want to curl up with your pumpkin spice latte and on a rainy day and just get the book done, do that. Be you, read it that way. But be aware, you will be asked to talk about your book. And when you read it that fast, we forget things really fast. That's just the natural way our memory works. So that's like one way you could do it is at the end of each chapter after you read it, uh, you might put a card in here and just make a note about what you liked about that chapter. Maybe add posties. Maybe if I don't really like to write in my books but some people could you could highlight your book or underline a quote. However you want to do it, keep track along the way if you're a fast reader and just want to get through it. Okay. Because I'll ask you from choose from chapter 5 or 6, or choose from somewhere in the eighth or ninth chapter of your book, and you'll be like, God, what was in chapter 4? I don't want you to have to reread it. Oh my gosh, take care of yourself. Don't reread the book. Okay. So, or you can just make it steady as she goes, right? If you divide the book up, this one I just did it by chapters, but you could do posties by eight posties, and mark where you should be week by week. Then when I ask you you should if it should follow right along with the assignments where I'll be asking you to report on a different chapter. You'll be like, oh, I just read that chapter and it's fresh in my mind. So it's up to you. Decide how you want to do it. All right. Whoa, I can talk a lot about books. I can talk a lot about books, but again, this is the introduction to the course. So I'm interlaying and weaving in all the different elements of what we're going to be doing. Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm your instructor. Uh, so you can contact me. I on Canvas is my mobile phone. You can use the Western Oregon University Gmail to use the chat feature, or you can text me. Uh, if you just try and call me, if I don't recognize the number, I probably won't answer. So you should always text me and let me call you back if I have availability. If I'm not available, I'll sometimes put my phone on silence. I'm not really available on the weekends. But Monday through Friday, I really try and keep my schedule open as possible during working hours. You can make an appointment for the evening. I do that very occasionally because I know some of us are working and this is the only time we can meet. Uh, so I can sometimes meet on the evening. Uh, I can make an exception. I don't do that very often, so let's try during business hours first. The conflict is my main area of study. This is my baby. This class is my baby. I love this teaching this class. I learn so much every term. What you bring to this class excites me, and I am curious about getting deeper into this topic. So I take this class very seriously, and w because of that, the way this class is designed, it has layers to it, meaning that I need you to think about how you're using your vocabulary in your assignments to really demonstrate that you can articulate an idea. Don't be afraid to get extra nerdy in this class. This is the place to do it, right? You are in good company, well accepted, and that this is where we're going to go with it. I want to say week 1 this week has the most assignments in it of the entire term. So it is pedal to the metal. Uh, you have a discussion board due right away. Uh, I think it's Tuesday of week 1. You have your first discussion board. I'm asking you to be creative. It takes a little bit of thought. Some people just jump right in and try it out, but you might want to give it a little thought as you do your post there and read the instructions. And then you have another discussion board due. week one. You have two discussion boards week one, and you have quite a few replies. I asked for three replies instead of two because we are trying to find a way to build an online supportive learning community. So really try and vary up who you're responding to, who doesn't have a reply stuff. Get your stuff up so you can be part of the conversation and see how you're connecting with our class. So let's dive right in. And then you have a pretty intense writing assignment due the first week. And there's a lot of reasons why I do this assignment. Um, it's really so that you demonstrate that you know how to navigate our Canvas page. You have to respond to videos. You have to respond to the podcast. You have to respond to my first lecture, which this is not it, even though it's quite long. It is not the first lecture. My tiny desk week one, where I define conflict, is the one you want to respond to in there. And it has some other things in there. And I do ask you to use vocabulary. So you should expect this week one to take more time than you think I have. I am like, you're like, oh my God, if every week is like this week, I'm not going to survive this class. It's not. It's just week one that is a little more intense. And then we're going to taper down from there. We will continue discussion boards throughout the term. A lot of them have a video component. Just like I'm making videos, you're going to have to make videos. If you feel uncomfortable with making a video or using technology, hi, I'm here. If I can help, I will. Or you can call computing services on the Western campus. You are required to have a camera for this class. I expect you to get the technology lined up that you need so you can really show up for those video assignments. And let's talk to Western Oregon University if you need some assistance in getting this set up for you. And your phones are a great way to do it. Some, like the whole TikTok video or Instagram reel or YouTube shorts, that kind of style that you can tell it was filmed on a phone. That works too. Uh, but there's lots of different ways to make your videos, and call me. Let's chat about it if you'd like some help with that. Okay. Dum-de-dum. The last thing I'm gonna talk about is just a couple more of the assignments. I feel like we've covered. I want to talk about the assignments. Do I want to talk about content? I feel like I've sprinkled enough content in that you have an idea of where we're going. So let's just talk about the assignments. Okay, here's a big assignment. I require that you meet with me in a Zoom office hour visit once this term. So I'll put up a sign-up sheet in week two, and it'll be a Google Doc with all my available times, and just type your name into the slot that you can reserve. You can cancel and reschedule once without losing any points on that. But I do, or if you've missed these, if you like, you just had one of those brain moments because it's so random to have to meet with the professor. Uh, if you just forgot, there's grace there. Let's use the grace of that. But after that, if it's repetitive and then you miss your office visit, you will lose the points for the sign up. I'll go back and zero those out, and you'll lose the points for the office visit. And that has to be done before, I think by week 6 or 7 of the term. I don't like to take that assignment to the end of the term. Let's do it in the first 5 weeks here. So we'll put pedal to the metal and get that assignment done. And again, this is one of those things that I actually could come to my office on Western Campus. If you're on the campus, if you feel more comfortable meeting in person, I would love that. Let me know. And all the times I list are virtual times. You'd have to make an appointment with me if you'd want to meet in person. Or if you want to meet, if there's not a time listed and none of those work for you, make an appointment and let's get my schedule opened up so you can get that assignment done. It's not a static list. Okay. Uh, We have reports. So the first week you have this pretty big written report, and then you'll have another pretty big written report at the end of the term. Um, but that otherwise we have kind of shorter written reports that are part of your discussion board assignments. So, oh, I need some water. I've been talking a long time. There's the children's book report, the metaphor report, music and lyrics report, and of course, a book report. And those are all discussion board assignments. It's really great. I hope we have a lot of fun with those. They are meant to be a little bit, the topics we're covering are so serious that we do want to make room for kind of playing around with the topic sometimes as well, especially music and lyrics can go either way. There's some hardcore lyrics out there when we start talking about conflicts. Uh, but the children's book or young adult book, that's coming up, and that's really about intercultural communication and how we teach children the culture of conflict. So we'll be looking at some of those books in that. I have a whole other video for that, so I don't need to go into more. The other big part, which is a huge percentage of your grade, is your team meetings. So I will assign you to a team, and you have 4 team meetings. In a graduate level class, these team meetings usually go over an hour. An hour is all I require, but you will notice that making room for about a 90-minute meeting is the I would say the average length, almost not average. They mostly go to about 90 meetings is the majority time. So uh, you might just keep some room for that. We don't have any synchronized lecture, and when you're assigned your team, everyone is working, everyone has multiple classes, everyone has outside activities and families. Everyone is already here. So when you meet with your team and you start conversing about when to meet, please be generous and make room for yourself and others to collaborate. It is a conflict. It is a type of conflict to decide when to have the team meeting. And let's start showing up in those conversations to set a day and time for your meeting. For now, the way my late work policy works is different for team meetings than for assignments. I have a lot of grace for team meetings because they're so important. If we could not, if we could please not leave anyone out. I know that's not always possible, but please try and make room for everybody. And for example, let's say someone has something come up and they're like, oh my gosh, can we push out the meeting? I'm not going to make it home from my office for another 30 minutes. Can we meet in 30 minutes instead of at the time? Is there grace for that? Or, oh my gosh, something came up and I can't make our team meeting. Can we reschedule in the next 2 week? I will accept a team meeting up to 5 days late if we can have some grace for those uncertain moments. Uh, However, if you just have to go ahead with the meeting, that is also okay. There is a safety net built into the class if one person misses a team meeting. If the whole team misses the team meeting, nope, it's a zero for everybody. But if one person misses a team meeting and the rest of the group says we actually need to go ahead, there's no time in the next 5 days to reschedule this, I can send a lifeline out to that one person. The details of that are in the syllabus, but basically finals week has a makeup assignment for one meeting. And anyone from the term who has missed a meeting, finals week, there'll be an alternative assignment. That can only happen for one meeting once. Okay. I lay out the dialogue. I give you a list of questions in your team meeting. When it opens up, you can open it up and see it. There's sometimes a video you have to watch and then discuss. You might have to talk about assignments we're working on. The purpose of the team meeting assignment is really to go, is what I feel like we're missing by not meeting in a classroom. Remember when you met in a classroom and you sat down and you're looking around you? You start getting to know the people just sitting in proximity to where you're sitting. And after a while, they become almost like people you can check in with and go, what did you do for that last assignment? Or, I'm really confused about this assignment. What are you doing? Because of that little small talk kind of dialogue that we're missing because we're all sitting alone at home working on this class. That's really was the purpose of me creating this team meeting. So really use this as a way to have a collaborative learning experience and create true proximity to other people in the class. Okay. Final report, the leadership report. That's our last big assignment of the term. Okay. If you go into the Canvas page to look at assignments, it will be all by due date and it'll be a mishmash. And at the very top corner, on the right side, if it's a desktop, there's a little button you can toggle to from date to type. And if you toggle to type, all of a sudden the page will shift into how the percentages and weights and how assignments are grouped, and you can see the design of the class. So that's just another tech tip to get a better idea of what's happening in the class. All right. All right. I know I'm missing something. As soon as I stop recording, I'm going to be like, nope. But if I miss something and you have a question about it and it doesn't make sense in the syllabus, that's a great thing to pop in with a chat on the Gmail or send me a quick Canvas inbox message. I'm really looking forward to this term and getting to know you all. Have a great, great day. Bye, everyone.